So when I was in junior high, I went over to a friend's house for a sleepover with about 4 or 5 other buddies. And we stayed up, playing video games, playing basketball and other games, listening to music. And at one point we got this great idea that we're going to stay up all night. And in the morning, we could walk across the street because there was a little restaurant across the street from my buddy's house, and they had a slushie machine. So we were going to greet the new morning with slushies. And so at the end of the night, as the sun rose in the east and we gazed out across the street to the freshly lit open sign on the window of the restaurant, those who had made it through the entire night without giving in to the need of sleep made our way across the street to claim our frozen reward. And actually only 2 of us made it up the entire night. The rest fell asleep. So the 2 of us walked across the street triumphantly and placed our order. Now, the person who took our order looked a little bit puzzled. People apparently don't do that sort of thing, show up when they first open and order slushies. And she informed us that the machine the ice hadn't yet formed in the machine. It was still warm, and it wasn't going to be what we thought. But we had waited all night for this slushie, so we assured her that's what we wanted. So we walked proudly back across the streets with our slightly less than frozen trophies to mark our great accomplishments. That was the thing that we had waited the entire night for which to receive. Now, one sip of that warm, unfrozen, syrupy concoction revealed the folly of our efforts. An unrewarding reward for our troubles. It was not the prize that we had hoped for. It was not worth the wait. So we set aside our cups that were filled with disappointment, and we gave way to our sleepiness and joined our other friends in their slumber. Now, the rest of the weekend, of course, reinforced the reality of the errors of our ways. No sleep and an overload of liquid sugar to wash it all down is a bad combination. The rest of my Saturday was ruined, and you would not believe the audacity of my mother who drug me to church on Sunday morning. There are things that we wait for in our life with foolishness. We sacrifice something in order to gain the objects of worldly temptations. But the objects of our desire oftentimes are not what they seem. We often are left holding the empty cups. On the other hand, there are things that are worth waiting for. We might await the coming of a child or a grandchild. We might await the coming of a friend for a long-awaited visit. We might await healing from an injury or illness. We might await peace at a time when the world around us is struggling with strife. We might await good news. Lord knows people get their share of bad news every day. But waiting is hard. Waiting is oftentimes filled with anxiety and uncertainty. Are we going to make it? Will the thing that we're waiting for or the person that we are waiting for show up? Will the coming of that person be the thing that we had hoped it would be? Waiting is not easy. Waiting for a package to arrive at my doorstep has me checking tracking data twice a day, sometimes. And there are far, far more consequential things that we wait for. Waiting for a doctor to come into a room when a loved one is not doing well. Waiting for treatment to work. Waiting for a loved one to arrive from a distance so that we can have a shoulder to cry on. Waiting for the end of a week for a paycheck when money is tight and the cupboard is bare. Waiting for grief to subside just for a moment so that we can feel some peace again. Waiting for an answer to a prayer. waiting is hard. Here in this reading from Isaiah, the writer speaks on behalf of a people of faith who are struggling with waiting. They are waiting for God to take action, waiting for take action in the world when the world seems to be entirely against them, waiting for healing and restoration in their community, waiting for life to feel like life again. Their world is broken. So they call on God to tear open the heavens and come down. What a powerful invocation. Calling on God, Hulk Hogan style, to come down from heaven. What a powerful way to call on God. We not only need God's answer to come to us, we need God to come in such a way that everything breaks in the wake of His coming. Come down in such a way that the mountains will quake and tremble and break apart. Come down in a way that the very fabric that separates us from the heavens is torn into. This is what we are waiting for from God. Come down here to earth and show your enemies who's boss. God has another plan. It would have been something if God had torn open the heavens and arrived in a blaze of glory, stunned the whole world into submission, broken the mountains and the walls of His enemies, shattered the will of those who stand against God in a single breath. Oh, it would have been something if God had torn apart the heavens and come down. Instead, God chose to come in a whimper, or rather, in a baby's cry. So this is a story that we prepare to tell this time of year. A story about God coming to be among us. A story of waiting for something that is absolutely worth waiting for. We await the coming of our Messiah. All night we await so that we can rise with the sun and receive the one that we have waited for. Only this time, I promise, the reward is worth the wait. With this story, our cups are full. Jesus, come.